All right, y'all. So the verdict is in. Of the 5 counts, Diddy has been convicted of only 2 of them. The RICO charge is not included in the ones that he has been convicted of. He's actually been acquitted of that charge and the 2 trafficking charges. Let's get into exactly what this verdict, this partial verdict means.
You so lonely, insecure, they don't control me, boy, you can't control me, troll me, I wasted my time and time is money, bitch, you.
Way back in 2018, I put out the first book in my Xeraxia series called Xeraxia, Wrath of the God King. Now I'm so excited to let you all know that the sequel to that book, Xeraxia, The Vengeance of Coldwind, is out now. Anywhere you get your ebooks and audiobooks, you can find it there. I'm talking about Amazon, Audible, audiobooks.com, Google Play, like it's all there. Also, you can go to www.xeraxia.com to purchase it directly from my site. Check out my series, check out the first book, and make sure you get the second book because it's out now. I'm so excited.
All right, y'all. So as usual, I will be using official articles as the foundation for this video. If you want to read them in full, because of course I'll be jumping around, make sure you check out the links that are in my description. Now, Diddy was acquitted Wednesday on racketeering, conspiracy, and trafficking, but found guilty of lesser charges in his federal trial. So it's kind of wild. People are obviously online saying like, wow, okay, the government bringing this RICO charge and not being able to get a conviction. It's definitely something that can't be ignored here. We'll talk a little bit more about that later, but the jury's verdict delivered on the 3rd day of deliberations declared Combs not guilty of 1 count of racketeering conspiracy and 2 counts of sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, but guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. So at the sentencing, the prostitution transportation charge carries as much as 10 years in prison per count, since obviously he got 2 counts, looking at a maximum of 20 years. Prosecutors saying they're going to try and seek the maximum. Now, Diddy could have faced life in prison if found guilty of the more serious charges. After the verdict was read, he put his hands in prayer. And I'm like, okay, whatever. That y'all love. Sky Daddy's always here with y'all. I don't know. He'll never disappear. Y'all don't never give him a break. Even when y'all are abusers, y'all go. And I guess he is one himself. Like, he's so sadistic, like flooding the planet. And I was just like, oh, wow. Okay. But like Sky Daddy's always here. Anyway, he also fell to his knees with his head in a chair praying. It's too late for all that. It's too late to get priestly on me, girl. y'all trying to become clergy all of a sudden. As his family clapped and cheered. Diddy's lead attorney asked the judge to release Diddy from federal detention where he has been for nearly a year. He also asked for him to be released on conditions to his home in Miami and offered a $1 million bond. The judge better than me, girl. I would have looked at that and been like, I'd have got my stamp of disapproval out right then. Wrong answer, forehead. Are you serious? You want to be released from where? You want to be released from where, girl? The judge said he would review whether to release Combs later Wednesday after receiving arguments from prosecutors and the defense. Don't let that supervillain out the cage. Don't let Dr. Draken roam the street. Don't let Lex Luthor out. That's y'all problem. That's y'all problem. Y'all get comfortable when y'all think the Joker's not looking no more, and all of a sudden he surprised you. What did we learn from even Batman? Girl, he should have just dealt with the problem. Y'all don't release this man. Like, I'm telling y'all talking about he Lucius Lyon from Empire. No, girl, he is the music industry's Lex Luthor. Don't even let him out on house arrest. I'm so serious. Like, if y'all really let this man breathe even one breath of fresh air outside, he's going to look at y'all like Thanos did to Thor. He gonna say, y'all, you should have aimed for the head. Keep the supervillain caged up. I'm so serious. The partial conviction caps an astonishing moment for Combs, a self-made blah, 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 blah. Over the course of a 7-week trial in New York, a jury of 8 men and 4 women heard the U.S. government accuse Diddy of leveraging his power, wealth, and influence as the head of a criminal enterprise to sexually abuse and exploit women for his own gratification over 2 decades. But his defense, his lawyers pitched to jurors that the case against him was badly exaggerated, and he was simply on trial for a swinger's lifestyle, one tinged with violent behavior and included supplies of drugs and baby oil that was ultimately consensual. And so, yeah, I think that was a problem for the trafficking charges. It seems that the jury was not convinced that it was truly not consensual, and I'm just like, it's really sad because, you know, anybody in this kind of predicament where it's like, okay, this person has a bunch of influence, there's a bunch of power, and now I'm finding myself in an abusive situation. It's like, you know, people do what they have to do to survive some of those situations. And so from the outside looking in, people might be convinced that, oh, well, did she like it? She's over here. She was with him, da da da. And I don't know. I think sometimes these complex, nuanced situations get really victim blaming for me, where you're looking at someone who's clearly in a relationship, a coercive, something where the power dynamic is not equal. And sometimes the law is like, well, we don't care, especially when women are trying to tell their story. Which is why when Keke Palmer doing girl, I just be looking at her like, what are you talking about? Anyway, so of course the dueling depictions cast a far different image of Diddy. The trial heard from almost 36 government witnesses, from former personal assistants to stylists to label artists, some willingly testifying against Diddy, while others were granted immunity in exchange for their testimony. Diddy's lawyers called no witnesses of their own, and the defendant himself decided not to testify. Girl, get on that stand. That's the same thing I was telling Tory Lanez. I was like, girl, get on that stand. Defend yourself, mama. What's wrong, mama? Your lawyers knew not to put you up there, girl. They knew not to put you up there. As much of the defense's case was laid out during lengthy cross-examinations of government witnesses. The main courtroom was routinely packed as Diddy's mother and 6 adult children regularly showed up in support, with Diddy often in a sweater and khakis, mouthing "I love you" or forming his hands in a heart shape. And it's like, oh, how y'all not sick to y'all stomach seeing that stuff, seeing the evidence? How y'all lovey-dovey smiling? How y'all not sick to y'all stomach? All right, so about the RICO charge. On the racketeering conspiracy charge, a jury must be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that a defendant was involved in an enterprise among 2 or more people to engage in at least 2 criminal acts affecting interstate commerce, offenses that may include all this stuff right here. And so for the standalone trafficking charge, prosecutors must demonstrate the defendant, by force or threat, compelled others to commit commercial sex acts in which something of value, such as money, was received. On the 2 counts of trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, prosecutors told jurors that they did not need to believe Cassie or another ex-girlfriend were engaged in acts against their will in every single instance. So if there was one single freak off when the defendant knew or recklessly disregarded that Cassie or Jane was participating because of his lies, his threats, or his violence, then that's it, prosecutor said. He's guilty. Diddy's defense team maintained, however, that he operated a legitimate business and was being unfairly targeted by overzealous prosecutors. And they're just like, oh, well, Diddy has become something that's very, very hard to become. This was his lawyer saying he's a self-made, successful Black entrepreneur, like just pulling out every excuse they could. And obviously some of it worked. They apparently, because the jurors were not convinced that they could get the RICO charge. And we're talking about it has to affect commerce between states and stuff. they were not convinced. And so of course Diddy himself also was definitely celebrating when they could not get the RICO charges, those serious charges, to stick. So they did not deny Combs was consumed by bouts of jealousy and engaged in angry tirades that involved domestic violence. But basically they were arguing that the women ultimately chose to stay with him, and also that those in his inner circle had the agency to leave and didn't. And this to me is the part that ignores the amount of power, the amount of pressure, the amount of the fact that this guy was paying authorities and stuff, like getting rid of footage. This part completely ignores the pressure that he's able to put on victims, which is why this partial verdict seems so flimsy to me. It just ignores the extreme amount of power that some of these abusers can accumulate and can weaponize against their victims, And so you have these jurors, some of them looking from the outside in like, well, did you want to stay? Like, you were trying to appease him? Yeah, I was trying to appease him to survive this situation. Once I got out and healed, I'm ready to, call it what it is. But the law does not see it like that. Unfortunately, a lot of times the law does not see it like that, much to the disadvantage of, these victims, right? So they go on to say, this is what his defense was saying. We own the domestic violence. We own it. I hope you guys know this. This is what he was telling the jury, while denying that Diddy was a mastermind who conspired with his employees to commit crimes, which I'm just like, girl, that's exactly what it looked like to me from the outside. And that's exactly what it looked like. But his lawyer was saying, if he was charged with domestic violence, we wouldn't all be here having a trial, because he would have pled guilty because he did that. He did not do the things he's charged with. Diddy has been held without bail at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn since his arrest last fall. But the article here is saying no matter the outcome of the criminal case, Diddy must contend with a slew of lawsuits that have included accusations of R-word, S.A. Diddy, who has denied such allegations, has accused various plaintiffs of pursuing quick paydays, whatever. I, of course, had to dig into an article, like legit news on what's going on, because I saw that the verdict came out and certain people were like, yeah, Diddy not guilty. And I'm like, he definitely was found guilty on 2 charges, girl. Like, what do you, like, definitely a partial one, right? He was acquitted on certain charges, but I saw immediately that there were certain people who just saw a headline and were like, oh yeah, he acquitted. I'm like, girl, he's still facing 20 years in prison. What are y'all talking about? What are y'all talking about? Yes, the more serious charges he definitely dodged, but he was found guilty on 2 of them charges, girl. I don't know what to tell y'all. But yeah, I can definitely see the disappointment that some people have with this conviction, just because from the outside looking in, like I said, just from the evidence that we saw, it definitely gave coercion, it definitely gave RICO to me, it definitely gave trafficking to me. But this idea that victims who are trying to survive a situation wanted to be there, or they consensually doing things, I think it just wanders every time into the victim blaming area. And so I can 100% understand why people would be, especially like people, advocates for victims, would be disappointed by this verdict, even though he did get convicted of 2 of the charges. So yeah, that's it, y'all. Thank y'all so much for watching. Love y'all so much. And make sure you have a good evening.
This ain't the only